I'm not going to repeat all his bona fides because there are a lot, but he was introduced to the White Shaman mural in 2008, and in 2011 he broke the geographical code in the rock art of the mural. His research was published in the Bulletin for the Texas Archaeological Society in 2020, and just recently he was featured in Texas Monthly. Yeah. So if you haven't found it yet, please go look for it. It's an awesome read. So without further ado, Mr. Kerry, please.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to see folks that to me look like you do your homework. You read a lot. You want to know the truth. You're trying to sift through the past and trying to find out what really happened here all those years ago. And sometimes the records are incomplete, sometimes they're not, or they are, and sometimes there's pieces. And I don't think that we'll ever know the entire truth about what really happened here, but our ancestors did leave clues behind about what was on their mind at the time that the missions were being built. Okay? By the way, if you haven't picked up this month, if you don't subscribe, haven't picked it up, this is this month's Texas Monthly magazine. It talks about, let me get on with my PowerPoint presentation and we'll work it in. Talks about the work that I've done, including Joe Diaz and Janet Stock, who were here. They've been co-authors with me in 2 separate papers. And, okay, they've been co-authors with me in two separate papers, and then this one for Texas Archaeological Society for the Bulletin, that was Dr. Eric Schrader, whom I worked with on that. So I want to thank Margot and Diane, Samid, thank you so much for opening up these forums every month. You've got some fantastic speakers. I'm the least of them all, but you got so many bright people out there doing their own research, doing their own work, confirming for themselves what is and what isn't fact or truth. Rather than drinking the Kool-Aid, they go down the rabbit hole to find the truth, and that's what I believe this is accomplishing. So here's an article that this month's Texas Monthly magazine is what started this whole thing, the publication of our research over the last 2011, when we broke the geographic code on a 2,000-year-old map of Texas, the White Shaman mural. Matilda and I just got back from a trip from Canada. We were up there with the Tabacha leadership and the for the Whooping Crane Festival and the Dark Skies Festival to help that community, Fort Smith, Northwest Territories, to create economic development through ecotourism. And the reason for that is because we've had a Whooping Crane Festival at the coast, at Port A, for 30 years. And this year was the second one up there. And it's really far away, folks, and the mosquitoes are big, you know, and they have to truck everything in. And so this is a home full 60% indigenous peoples that are hoping to further develop, you know, the area for a little bit more prosperity. And so here's the entire range of the Whooping Crane. It ain't gonna work. The entire range of the Whooping Crane, they nest up north where we were, and they fly south this way in November. And I got to meet with the Bacha leadership. These are the 3 nations that are involved in the project that raised the money to get myself and one of my colleagues up there to talk about ecotourism and economic development. Al Heron is the chief of the Metis, and Lorraine McDonald is the chief of the Tabachi Dines Saline. Mijo, Cody, do y'all work with any of those folks up there? Dine? No? Okay. Cody's Navajo, by the way. He's a professor over at UTSA. And Tony Heron is the chief of Salt River. So the funny thing is that Al is a cousin to Tony, and Lorraine is Al's sister-in-law. So it's a small town, right? So all these where these tribes merge in this location around the whooping cranes, that's how their families grow. They intermarry with one another because of the whooping crane, which is how culture is, nature. And Matilda and I got a tour by the father who runs the St. Joseph Church there in Fort Smith. And this is, I believe, the southernmost image of the northernmost image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. I could not believe my eyes when I saw her up on the wall. So where we were closer to the North Pole than we were to the Canadian-U.S. border. How north that went. It was really something to see it. La Virgencita. And here's a picture of by Matilde Torres of the Northern Lights that we got to see during the dark sky presentation. You can't imagine what it looks like up close. And we're told that when those lights are real strong, there's a big event, it looks as though those lights are flowing through the trees over your head. It's really fantastic. All right, and so we went up there to share some star knowledge, South Texas star knowledge. Interestingly, on November 15th, when they began to leave the north and come south, and they're flying in at night, these are the constellations that greet them as they're coming in. The Phoenix is the double-crested cormorant. The constellation of Grus is the whooping crane. Okay, isn't that cool? They're flying in, they say, hey, there's our ancestors up in the sky, cool. We came to the right spot. And then when they turn around and go back on March 15th, on or about, the sun has blocked out the constellations in the sky. You can't even see them. So the constellations are gone, and they're gone. Okay, one more frame. When they return home, just before sunrise on about March 15th, the constellation of Cygnus is in their morning skies as they're returning. Okay, everybody understand what we just did? So you could say the birds are literally following the stars as they migrate to and fro. That's the kind of knowledge that they asked for, and that's what we gave them. So, on 1726, I'm just going to touch on this a little bit. In May 1st, 1726, my grandparents Diego Valdez and Antonia Cumplido, age 31 years old, were married and living in Nuevo León. And on that day, the planets aligned along the ecliptic the way they would eventually wind up along the river. 2 to the left and 3 to the right. 2 coming up in the east and 3 setting in the west. Okay. So to give you a good view of what's happening is that what I just showed you on May 1st, 1726, Saturn and Jupiter were to the left of the ecliptic. It being used the river as the ecliptic of the sun to the left, and then the other 3 planets were on the right. Just the way the missions were lined up along the river. Okay, that was the template for why these missions were put the way they were placed. We learned, and this is what it looked like. We just missed it. If you missed it, I'm sorry. If you were looking at the website, we tried to let everybody know within a couple of weeks that the planets were going to line up again along with the missions, the way they're laid out along the river in the sky from September 1st to the 10th. That won't happen again until 2039, and then it won't happen again until 2081. April 13, 2081. 355 years after the 1726 alignment. They're going to realign the same way they did 355 years earlier. And if you'll notice, I put the missions next to each planet that they represent in their dilapidated form. Because when they're dilapidated form, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and 2081. We don't know. And today, it's even harder to know what's going to happen. Is the National Park Service going to be around? The Catholic Church going to be around? Are we going to be around? Our kids, our great-grandchildren? And if we're not, then that's where the missions are headed. That's what they're going to look like in 2081. All right. Man, I've been wanting to settle this one for a long time, this issue for a long time. This is a book, Janet. It's by T.N. Campbell, The Payaya Indians of Southern Texas.
Tom Campbell?
Huh?
Tom Campbell?
Yeah, Campbell. Yeah. It was written in 1975. And in this book, there's this conversation going on. In his diary, it says in 1691, he said that after leaving the Payaya settlement, a village on the river, his party of Spaniards traveled northeast to a stream that is now Cibolo Creek. And it's the boundary of, I think Comal and Bexar County. This appears, on their journey, he writes, this appears to receive some support in the fact that Mazinet was with a Christianized Pacpul Indian from northeastern Coahuila, who explained to the Payaya native, apparently in his own language, the significance of the mass performed in their village on the San Antonio River. Nobody really seems to know where that village is. Some people say it was upriver, some people say it was downriver, some people say it was at San Pedro Park. There's always been this debate about where Yanaguana actually is or what it really means, right? But we do know it's part of the Payaya people's dialect of the language of Coahuilteco. There were two words, Payayuya, which is come crudo, that he singles these two words out. Payaya, which would have been the tribe, and then Yanaguana. So the other word is Yanaguana, that he was looking at these two words to determine what dialect that belonged to and who were the people speaking it. Well, according to him, they were Coahuilteco, they were speaking Coahuilteco from Coahuila all the way up to Cibolo Creek. An entire region when the river was no border whatsoever to this language. Okay, so in his book he says, Yanaguana refers to either the San Antonio River at large or a specific location along the river within the present limits of the city of San Antonio. Okay, it's either the river from San Antonio all the way to the Gulf, or it's somewhere near downtown. Okay? More likely refers to the locale, and so this, whatever it is, it's more likely refers to where the Payaya settlement actually was, in Yanaguana. So, here is Yanaguana, the river, as it flows through Brackenridge Park. And if you know our work, you know that when we've been saying this for years, that Yanaguana is also a river in the sky, the constellation of Iridienus. Look at how identical those two are. Through the entire length of the park, from Hildebrand all the way the Whitty Museum all the way this way over to Avenue A or B. Which is it, Joe? Where the retention dam is? B? Avenue B? Okay. Okay. So, then what do we talk? There's a river in the sky similar to the river as it flows through Brackenridge Park. Then where was the village? It was at Brackenridge Park. Not at San Pedro Springs. And yes, it is the entire length. It can be the entire length of the San Antonio River because it empties at San Antonio Bay, right? Where the whooping cranes nest. There's another connection there to where we live and where the whooping cranes nest, and they go to Canada. Anyway, so probably everybody knows by now that Matilda and I are suing the city of San Antonio to protect the trees and the migratory birds at Brackenridge Park. And when we sat down with our attorneys, they too were having a hard time wrapping their heads around these cultural phenomena of stars and geography and all this other stuff, because it's stuff you've never heard of, right, Joe? It's not written, but it is in our ancestral historical record. So here is a graphic of iridescence in the sky. I think that Starry Night graphic, Joe, is Canadian. I'm not sure. I think Alfred said that it was a Canadian group. But this is the graphic that when you pull up on your computer, their program, you pull it up, iridescence, you click on iridescence, it'll show you this graphic. And lo and behold, it's a river that flows this way, and there's a bird, and there's some dude in the water doing something, I don't know. And it goes on this way, and it ends right here at the star Achenar. That's the river in the sky. And this is the White Shaman mural, the image in the White Shaman mural. Okay? So yes, contrary to the debate that's taking place in this magazine today, the White Shaman mural is a map of the skies too, not just a map of Texas. Let me put that back again. So you imagine you're looking at a longhorn, the horns on his head, and one of them's kicked up this way. So there's this part, and then there's this deeper part here, and then it thins out here all the way to this point. Well, that's what's happening in the rock art. Next. So part of what you're going to see today, and my nephew Cody was there, and Albert was there. I think Albert probably stayed having more coffee at the coffee shop. He didn't show up. I did this part of what you're going to see at the Scobie Center for the American Astronomical Society here in San Antonio, Texas. And Cody, I want to thank you and your office for inviting us to do that. I really greatly appreciate it. It's great to sit in front of like-minded people, real geeks, man. You know, and you show them, astronomers, and you show them, hey, you know, there's something going on in the skies over Texas. Let's check it out, you know. All right, let's dig in. We'll go deeper. I'll try to take it slow. Everyone knows this painting. The Assumption of Mary, God bless her. And 2 years ago, when I did my presentation about the ring of fire, the eclipses, 2 years ago, we talked about this, and we showed how the annular eclipse, well, the eclipse underneath our feet, that's an eclipse. The Archdiocese used to say, yes, that is an eclipse. If you remember ever going to hear Father David interpret it, he'd say that was the eclipse because when Jesus died, there was an eclipse. When they used that example, that there was an eclipse. And then this refers to that eclipse. But when we gave that eclipse a date and an image, when we joined an actual date of the image that eclipse took place over San Antonio, it was walked back. They're like, okay, we're not going to touch that anymore. We're not going to say anything about eclipses anymore. I missed something back here just a little bit. I just remembered. By the way, my grandparents, Tomás Valdez and María de las Casas, were married in Nuevo León at the tender age of 17 and 19 in 1691, when Friar Mazanet they were still exploring Texas. Thank God for Catholic records, huh? So 2 years ago, I showed an image of these are twin eclipses. This one happened in 1638, and then 54 years later, the next one shows up on or about the same place in the sky in the morning. And I asked the audience which of these two that those twins looks like the most that's in the painting under the Assumption of Mary, and everybody in the audience, if you remember, agreed that it was the one on this one right here that looked like your Oreo just went, you know. I'm sorry to give you his back. This is Art. And if you know Art, he does those interpretations voluntarily at Mission Concepcion. When people come in, and he'll kindly, politely walk up to you, are y'all from here? Would you like to hear an interpretation? And he has him sitting there for the next 10 minutes and he's going and telling the story about the missions. He does such a great job. He's such a kind man. Anyway, I thought that I would go ahead and put him, remove the walls, and put him back on the day that eclipse actually took place. These are the skies over San Antonio on March 1st, 1737, 288 years ago. So what's happening here is that when they placed that picture of the eclipse under the Assumption of Mary on the wall, the location, if you're like art, if you're standing outside and you're looking at that eclipse right there, the elevation from your perspective, the elevation of that eclipse that morning is still there. Does that make sense? You can still walk up to that painting every day if you want and relive that moment. You're staring right at it. You're staring where it took place on that day that it happened. In perpetuity. Until somebody takes that. By the way, here's that eclipse on March 1st, 1737, the view from Monterrey, Mexico. Actually, not Monterrey, it was Nuevo León. But my grandma, Antonia Cumplido, bless her heart, she died 4 months later on July 1737 at the age of 42. So I thought I'd throw in my family tree in there so that you'll know that at least our families, and I'm sure many of our families who've been around since all that time, saw these eclipses and saw these phenomena. You know, we all share a lot of the same past. If it's something as big as an eclipse, that it's somewhere within our family tree, somewhere within our family memory, somewhere within the stories that we tell one another. Okay, we're going to dig a little deeper now. On March 1st, 1737, the day of that eclipse that I just got through talking about, this was the planetary alignment in the sky. Saturn, Mars, Venus, the eclipse, Mercury, and Jupiter. Okay, I boxed it in here in a straight line so that this is what the image looked like that morning. Mercury and Jupiter came up, the eclipse came up. And I've circled Mercury and Jupiter because they're very close to each other. Okay? So, what we've learned about the astronomy related to these missions is that there's something going on within these missions that predict eclipses. There's something going on. And it's science. And it's embedded. And we're going to look at that. So 100 years previous to 1737, the same planetary alignment took place on September 18th, 1636. 1636, missions hadn't even been settled here yet. But if you go back another couple of hundred years, 200 years, 80 years earlier, the same planetary alignment took place 280 years previous. And then a couple of hundred years later, and then 100 years later, the eclipse takes place. So you got a planetary alignment, eclipse to the moment. Does that make sense? Do I need to explain that a little more? 200, so there's a 280-year process that exists out there that happens without our knowing. Whether we pay attention to the stars or not, it's happening around us all the time. We're talking about algorithms. Algorithms. Not sitting at a computer, algorithms where somebody puts in a program and wants to create something to happen as frequently as you want it to be. I'm an electrician, so you can control water pumps with algorithms to come on and come off or slow down and go faster to deliver water wherever you need it. So algorithms, okay, factors affecting runtime. In algorithms, runtime depends on the number of operations it performs, which in turn depends upon the input data and the algorithms designed by a human. But do algorithms exist in nature? Yes, they do. Algorithms are a natural process, often involved in step-by-step instructions or sequences of operations that can be considered algorithmic. They're not written down. They happen in nature all the time. Especially for the sake of this presentation, we're going to look deeply into the algorithms that have been taking place here for hundreds of years and why these missions were placed where they are. So here's the algorithm we just looked at. The planetary alignment in 1457. 1457, I think that Ferdinand and Isabella weren't even alive then. Maybe their grandparents were alive. I don't know, Joe. The Moors would still be in control of Spain for another 99 years, no?
Yeah, they would have been alive, but probably even before they were married.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I thought I referred to your presentation last month. That was a good one. Okay, 1457. Here's the 280 years out, 1636, 100, and then 100 years later, boom, an annular eclipse. Caught up in the algorithm. So, can you predict annular eclipses using this algorithm? Nature certainly can. And if you're not paying attention, then no, you can't. You got to be paying attention to the skies. You know? I would advise if you put your iPhones down for just a little while and look up every now and then, you might get to learn something. Okay, we're taking a break.
Fried your brain already? Yes.
Pastries and coffee and there's water.
Can we get the lights turned up? so long as it's like red or black. Maybe the library may have one. But I'll need it in like a few minutes, not right away. Okay. Algorithms. They exist in nature. And our ancestors were able to predict them at least, at the very least, the archaeological record. And I mean today's Western European archaeological record for at least 2,000 years. Can you give me one bigger? No one's going to be able to see it. Thank you, dear. That's what we're learning. And this work is surrounded by anthropologists, archaeologists, geographers, astronomers. I'm just a cheerleader for the team, folks. You know, that article in today's Texas Monthly only refers to a small group of people with a little bit of tension between their points of view. But in fact, this science is bigger than the credit that the article actually gives it. Green, great, green, visible all the way to the back of the... Okay, here we go. Here's an algorithm, an 8-year algorithm. The Dance of Venus, I call it the Dance of Venus. The 8-year Dance of Venus, also known as the Venus Star Point or the Rose of Venus. The 8-year period. This cycle is based on a relationship between Venus's 224.8-day orbit and the Earth's 365.6-day orbit, okay? So what's happening here is every 8 years, Venus will come back to the same place in the sky that it was 8 years previously. That's an algorithm. There's an even bigger one than that, the 243 years algorithm, but we're not touching on that today. And what it does is in this 8-year process, it creates a rose in the sky. If you're standing in one spot, and you're looking at the sky every day, Venus will move just so. And if you keep watching it, if you stay in that one spot looking south, you'll see Venus will do this thing over an 8-year process every day, come back, and it makes this fantastic rose-looking design. Anybody ever heard of that? The Rose of Venus? But gee, what's so familiar about the word rose? Anybody? The rose window. Remember I said if you stood and you look towards the south and you you can remove the sun from the sky. I do it all the time with my computer program. But you can trace every day that dance of the rose window. Wow. Actually, that was my question. Does anybody? I get ahead of myself because I've been working on this for a year and I'm just really ready to get it behind me. You know what I mean? Have you ever had a day like that, Hefman?
For a year too.
Well, it's over, you know. Legends surround the rose window. The rose window in San Antonio is an ornate window located in the Mission San Jose. Although likely carved by a master craftsman, Pedro Huizar, around 1775, the window symbolism and sculpture remain a source of mystery. Well, we're going to take a look at that mystery. A little bit. I forgot this part. Unlike traditional rose windows in Spain, it depicts other elements like pomegranates, not roses. That's kind of a deviation from that Baroque style of architecture, no? Well, why not roses? Why did you come all the way to Texas to change your style and put pomegranates up on the wall instead of roses? I don't know, Joe. Maybe next year you can tell us about it. Sure, pomegranates are indigenous. Christianity uses pomegranates depicting the art of Virgin of Mary. The pomegranate symbolizes resurrection and everlasting life. The red seeds are seen as representing the suffering of Christ and the abundance that follows. The red color, the deep red color, and the juice are often linked to blood and life force. I pulled this off the internet. You can do the same. And then, folks, there isn't anything in these presentations that Joe or I do that you can't go out and find yourself. And then if you want to, frame it the way that you want. But this is, with his experience and my experience, this is what we come up with. I'm sure there are other ideas. So, if you're standing in front of the, like, let's imagine Mission Sound says behind me, and I'm looking south, like I said. I remove the sun from the lights from sky, I can see Venus from that position, right, Joe? And Venus, if you stand in front of the rose for 8 years every day, and you follow Venus's dance, you don't have to look this way or that way or look behind you. You're staring right south at the skies. Well, the rose window is pointing southwesterly just slightly because the Mission San Jose is slightly askew to the right. It's not perfectly east and west. But if you're standing in front of that window and you do what I said, or not because I said it, but if you take my suggestion, if you're standing in front of that window, lo and behold, you will see Venus's 8-year dance right in front of you every day. It won't disappear. I mean, it'll come back again. By the way, the window is divided in 8 parts. 8-year dance. Rose of Venus divided in 8 parts. The corners are 1, 2, 3, 4, one way. The from top to bottom here and directly across. Divided by 8. Isn't that strange, Dr. Saldana? Who'd have thunk? Well, what does the number 8 mean? In Christianity, the 8-pointed star can be symbolized of the birth or resurrection. The 8-pointed Armenian star represents Christ and his divinity. In Islam, it is known as the Seal of Solomon. In Native American, the 8-pointed star can be associated with the morning star, Venus. In Mesopotamia, the 8-pointed star can be associated with the goddess Inanna, Ishtar representing love, fertility, and warfare. By the way, if you saw the movie Ishtar, you know it was really bad. Anyway, y'all get that? So you can look at it through the religious Christian point of view, or you can look at it through the indigenous point of view, or the scientific point of view. You know, but you're looking at the same. The interpretation all over the world is generally the same. All right, we're going to go deeper down the rabbit hole. This is the ecliptic of the sun, and it's hard to explain what the ecliptic of the sun actually is. But imagine if the sun rode on railroad tracks in the shape of a figure 8 throughout the entire year. That's the ecliptic of the sun, the sun's path, the sun's railroad tracks in the sky. As it, we go from season to season. Okay? So I'm setting you up for what we're gonna look at next. Okay, I'm gonna stand over here, Matilda, like you asked, for just a moment. This is Mission Concepcion. The location we're looking at is up and to the left of the front doors at Mission Concepcion. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, if you don't know, because I'm in construction, a lot of people aren't. There's this thing called a brick and mortar line. You have it at your home if you have bricks. The brick and mortar line is where the mortar is placed between the bricks to hold them in place as it hardens. Okay, that's called the brick and mortar line. So there's a brick and mortar line here on Concepcion. This way, right here. I've highlighted it in green. And here is the Franciscan's rope that begins here and comes down this way and comes down and comes up and goes up and around and comes down and goes up and it continues on. And then it continues on this way We've crossed over to here, crosses here, the brick and mortar line here. It crosses here, goes around, comes up, and comes back down again. And then it finally ends right here. That rope crossed that brick and mortar line 8 times. What could that possibly represent? And those of you who know my work, don't say nothing. Anybody want to take a shot at it? What could it possibly represent? Okay. Cody? That's a good one. That's a good answer. Procession. Well,
Tracking the sun?
no. A good question, though. You're on there. You're there. Yes, sir.
Is it tracking Venus or tracking Mercury or something?
It's tracking Venus. In a 2-year, we call it, in our cultura, we called it El Danza del Venado. So these things still exist in our cultures in South Texas and northeastern Mexico. You know, science tries to say that all those cultures don't exist. Oh, yes, they do. They stay, they persistent. They're never going to go away because you can't erase the stars from the sky. You can't erase the geography unless you want to blow stuff up, you know. Our universe, our world is still out there, waiting for us to embrace it. And we'll talk about that later. We have a plan. So, this is what you just saw carved onto the Mission Concepcion. It crosses here, goes up and around, goes up and over and under the sun, and goes around and then ends over there on that side. That's what you just saw. Okay? Now we're going to look at it happen. We're going to look at it as it appeared in the skies when the missions were being built. So, mijo, what's your name? Your name?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Would you help me out with this green marker? Come on over here. One day this will be taught in school. Benjamin, as I show the program to everybody in the audience, would you follow along when this rope crosses this line right here? See the brick and mortar line right here? There's a line. When it crosses the brick and mortar line, will you just go like put a little arrow? And I'll tell you when. Okay?
You want the light on for a moment? No?
It is my honor and my privilege to be here with you guys to share this. Where did it go? Folks, it took years to do this. It didn't happen overnight. These things don't happen overnight. It takes years and years and years and a lot of cracking your skull to make sure that you understand what you're looking at and that it's happening, and if you don't believe it, it's true. You see it in front of you and you don't want to believe it, or you don't think you think you're making it up, or you think you're trying to shame or force your thinking into what's happening in reality. There's nothing greater than that reality check. When you finally understand what it is, what happened here 300 years ago, you get this reality check. That not everything out there has been written. A lot of it is missing. And most of it that's missing belongs to the people. Okay, mijo. We're gonna go to the first crossing. So you're gonna see Venus cross August 11th, 1741. That was Matilda's birthday on 1741. So the rope right here is up and it's going to cross down past the ecliptic, right, mijo? Well, let's see what happened. This is August the 11th, 1747 over San Antonio, Texas. Here we go. Okay, so it crossed down. Go ahead and put an arrow right across where it crossed. Yeah. Okay, stop right there. Now what it does, according to Mission Concepcion, is it goes down and comes back up again. Right, mijo? You don't have to mark it now, but is that what you see? it goes down, it goes down right here and comes up.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll tell you when to mark it while us grown-ups watch it. So I'm going to back up. Here's your first crossing here. Okay, that's the first crossing. Here comes the second one. It's going to come up and cross. Okay? See? It came up and crossed. Go ahead and mark where it came up and crossed. On the ecliptic. This is the ecliptic right here. The brick and mortar line is the path of the sun. So it came up and it goes up. So this is where it crossed just now, right here. Okay, you right? Cross it and put an arrow. There you go. All right, let's watch Venus now do in retro. Just go make a complete loop around the sun and cross it again right there. Now go up and over and cross it here, just like what we just saw. Up and over and cross. Keep going, keep going. Okay, stop. Put your arrow there. Let's move on. Now it's going to go down again, right? Your arrow's pointing down. Watch the screen. And it's going to come up again. Where's it going to come up again? Right where the brick and mortar line. Bring your marker up to where it's going to cross again. It's going to cross here. Remember the path. This is the ecliptic of the sun. Okay. The green line right here, mijo, is the ecliptic of the sun. Okay. So we're following Venus as it crosses the green line. Okay. Now it's crossed upwards. So go ahead and go on to the next crossing. Stop right there. And then it's going to cross, it suddenly just comes down again, doesn't it? Okay, well here it is. Crossing suddenly down again, right there. Go ahead and mark it right where it crossed again. Okay, point an arrow. Okay. Now, if you're an astronomer, you needed a device to be able to see Venus, or this program to see Venus so close to the sun. But it suddenly disappears behind this symbol here, as if it were too close to be seen. So we're here, may I? We've come this far right here. Now we're going to cross over here. So then when I tell you to mark it again, mark it right there. Okay, we're going to watch it happen. Okay, it's going to go past around the sun. It's going to cross to the left of the sun right there. Okay, mijo. Okay, stop. Put an arrow. Now I'm going to move my screen a little bit to help accommodate. Now Venus is down. And Venus is going to come down and cross at the way at the bottom down there on that. Like right here. It's going to cross here next, right there. So get ready. Okay, folks. There it goes. Just like it's carved onto Concepcion. It crosses right there. Go ahead and put your line now. Okay, put an arrow right there. And then it's going to go up and over. It's going to go up and over the sun. Right there. Okay, follow over to the next crossing. Follow it. So go up, go around, keep going. Whee! Go up. Follow, find the rope. There you go. Get back on track. You're going to cause the world to come to an end. Okay, there's your crossing. Oops. It's crossed the sun or about December. And then I'm going to stop Venus's 2-year dance here. It's already right there. Okay, mijo. Thank you very much. Everybody see that? It's a 2-year process. Thank you, Deborah. I'm going to end it on this day. Can anybody see what's important about why I may have ended Venus's 2-year dance around the sun on this day? Can anybody see something interesting in the screen?
They,
Huh?
they,
The day, well, yeah, the sun's in the Milky Way, right? Winter solstice.
Of the mission,
I'm sorry?
is it the completion of the mission?
You know, that's a great question. I don't have an answer. It takes somebody who digs a little deeper about the construction about these missions to answer that question. But it's this guy right here, the moon. And I'm going to throw in all the other planets that I deliberately removed from this exercise so that you could focus on Venus. December 15, 1743. Mars, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. At the end of the 2-year dance, right? So they carved this 2-year dance onto the mission. And at the end of that dance, with a new moon, you have this planetary alignment. You with me? Everybody? Planetary alignment on December 15, 1743. Let me get back to my PowerPoint. Okay. I was supposed to tell you we're going to look at starry nights now, and but once again I jumped ahead of myself. So December 15, 1743. That's what the end of Venus's dance. Mars, the Sun and the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. Yeah. Add 280 years to that. Add 280 years. The algorithm, attach the algorithm, the 280 algorithm, to what you just saw they carved on the wall. Does anybody what happened 280 years later in 2023?
The alignment that just happened. Because didn't the planets just recently align?
Yeah, but if you add 280 years to 17, yeah, the eclipse. The eclipse over these missions, folks. Did the Spanish do that? Did the Franciscans do that? One official, I'm not going to say what organization they're with or who they are. Well, how do you know the Franciscans didn't bring that with them when they came here? And Joe, what's the answer? Remember, you looked it up?
Yeah, the answer is that the Franciscans were not considered to be the scholars, say, of the Jesuits. They were here to propagate the faith. They were anything but scientists. They were to be humble and devoted to the
cause, yeah.
to the mission.
To the mission,
that
yes.
they had been sent on.
That's right. But the Jesuits were the scientists. The Jesuits were the Franciscans. The response to the person who asked me that question was, no, the Franciscans didn't do science like that. They were supposed to humble themselves to the mission and the people. It was the Jesuits that had that information back in Europe. So I thought that was a good comeback. But to be honest, I didn't expect that kind of question. So what happened? October 14th, 2023, we had an annular eclipse. And there's your alignment. Mars, the Sun and the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. 280 years later. There's your algorithm. There's your eclipse. over these missions. So if we look at, if we go back 100 years, let's look at the algorithm. If you go back 100 years like we did previously, there's the same planetary alignment: Mars, the Sun and the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. You go back 280 years, back to December 15, 1743, there it is, like we saw: Mars, the Sun and the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn. That means our ancestors were tracking these annular eclipses over this location. And we'll get deeper into, a little bit more deeper into that, to take a finer look at what it is that we're seeing. So, 12 days after the annular eclipse, on October 26th of 2023, the planets lined up along the ecliptic, once again, the way the missions were laid out along the river. Strange how they're only 12 days apart. You have an eclipse coming over San Antonio, the missions, and then 12 days later, the planets line up along with the missions. That's wild, man. That is so out of this world. I'm glad that our ancestors knew that before the kind of technology we have today. They knew that stuff before Starry Nights, before NOAA's solar calculator, before NASA 5,280-year catalog of eclipses, lunar and solar. It was already existed here, and they embedded it in these missions so that their world wouldn't be forgotten. So I think Joe will agree with this. I didn't check with him first, but okay. Sorry about that, Joe. The path of an eclipse generally covers, at the most, 170 miles. And I put San Antonio dead center of this 170-mile radius? Is that the word? Radius? Okay. 170 miles. I'm almost done, folks. And in that radius, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 annular eclipses over this region, from the time that the Spanish arrived in this area to the time that the missions were built and beyond. Okay? Now, that's a span of 350 years, folks. Add the algorithm to the first one, so 280 years, right, before this one. Add 280 to this, and you have to go back 1673 minus 280, right? You're subtracting because you're predicting this eclipse. You have to go back to 1393. 630 years worth of math before these missions were, from today back, 630 years of mathematics and algorithms involved into the building of these missions. Why do I do this? I'm just stepping into this chair. Everybody understand? You have a 280-year algorithm that predicts the eclipse in 1673, and then all the other subsequent eclipses that took place directly over the city of San Antonio, over these missions. I've tried looking for this cluster, this sweet spot, in other places in the world. I've gone to China and looked for the same patterns. I've gone to Australia and looked for the same pattern. Hawaii, Hawaii is just this. Hawaii small is, I don't know if the Hawaiian Islands are that big. 170, maybe a couple of them, right? I can't find it anywhere. Can't find it anywhere. It's a super unique thing, which makes the missions even that much more special, and our ancestors' work. So, to be fair, to be conservative and fair, if you had 630 years worth of mathematics predicting these eclipses, you had to have done your homework for the previous 630 years, right? Wouldn't that be fair? Conservatively fair? Yeah, I think so. That means if you did your homework predicting these eclipses, you started calculating these eclipses 1,260 years ago. In the year 763. I think Latin was still Latin that long time ago, wasn't it? It hadn't broken up yet, had it, Joe?
What?
Latin?
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking, I mean,
The feudal period in Europe and things like that.
Yeah. Latin was still pretty much Latin. It hadn't broken up into Spanish or French or
Right.
what have
It
you.
would have been
Yeah.
the educated.
Right. Good one. All you have to do, if you go back that far, 1,200 what? 1,260 years, all you have to do is go back a few more years earlier than that date, and you have a total eclipse over San Antonio in the year 736. All I had to do was go back 20, I think it was 27 years, I think. And there's a total eclipse over San Antonio. So yes, they did they did start 1,260 years ago with this eclipse over San Antonio. That was the beginning of everything that would happen for the next 1,260 years in this spot over our skies. So we have a lot to look forward to. We've got an eclipse within the same radius in 2056, another one in 2077, annular eclipse. And then here's the twin of the one that happened in April last year. Remember it happened this way? Going this way? The total eclipse in April last year? Here's its twin, 2078. Not quite next to the other one, but still you'll be able to travel to Brownsville in 2078 and see it. 2078. Okay? Thank you all very much for listening. Can we turn the lights up? I'm getting claustrophobic here.
Does anybody have questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Gary, I was wondering if you have looked into like Cahokia Mounds here in the border of Illinois, if you did anything similar as far as aligning the pyramids there?
I've got a great answer. It's an indirect answer, but I'll imagine there's a giant circle, and I'm talking about the supercultures, right at the cultures that disappeared during the Younger Dryas period. Okay, you've got Cahokia. Follow me along with me. Cahokia. You got the pyramids in Atlanta. You come this way. You cross the Gulf of Mexico over to the Pereda. You come up this way to Mexico City and keep going up this way through western United States. A few other sacred spaces, all the way up to the top again. Those super cultures that existed before any of us ever came along, those super cultures was a giant circle of super cultures. Mexico was part of it, Merida's part of it, Atlanta was part of it, Cahokia was part of it. The dead center of that circle, ladies and gentlemen, is Enchanted Rock. We live on one slice of that pie. Within one, Mesoamerica exists within that slice of that pie, of that circle. Yes, sir.
Do we know the date of the painting of your section of the Virgin, when that painting was made?
You know what? I believe that help me here, Joe, the pedigree or the provenance is supposed to be like the 1690s? 1690s.
So it would have been contemporary with the friars that were still here.
Well, they're coming in, and then, you don't forget big dates like, oh, there was this annular eclipse like 20 years ago. Were you there?
There's no artist, or it's not like it came from Querétaro or something like that.
Right.
We believe it to be produced locally.
Right. We believe.
There's no real provenance for it.
Right. And the other thing is.
Although the first mission here was in 1718, which was the Alamo,
Alamo,
so this was
right.
before.
This would have been before the Alamo.
Right.
But, yeah.
But the thing is that, you had what, Juan Bautista or on the river.
Uh-huh.
You know, there were other places that work could have been done and
Sure.
transported up. And
Sure.
the the one thing I will throw in, talking about artifacts and art, is recently I went to the Capilla de Milagros. How many people know it?
Capilla de Milagros, anybody been there? He's been there? Yeah.
It's a privately owned chapel, a remnant ranch chapel, and when you go in, the crucifix is dark brown. The crucified Christ is dark brown, and it's, some people conjecture that it's actually made from hide, and so it is aged. You know, the hair is real. It has a metal crown of thorns, and the family, it's owned by the Jimenez family who own the ranch.
I go there weekly.
Been there, right? And that their story is that the crucifix was made for Valero, then transported to San Fernando, and then at some point, you know, they sold it at a garage sale or something. And the Jimenez family took possession of it and put it in their chapel, which originally started off as a
Right.
little wooden hut,
Right.
and now is a dope.
If you have any questions about what he just said, or if you didn't hear what he said, please get with Joe to help explain. Anybody, any other questions? Yes, sir, Wade. Yeah.
The indigenous people, I assume they were a coherent society to develop this astrological information and just repeat it or teach succeeding generations. But did the indigenous at the time of the founding of the mission suggest these locations to the Padres? Or did the Padres just accept it? I mean, how would they know of all this information? Because they didn't, they were only there for like X number of years.
That's correct. The evidence shows, the way that I see it, shows that there was more going on with the natives. Let me tell you something. When the Spanish arrived in Mexico, they wouldn't settle here in San Antonio for another 200 years. And you know, bad news travels fast. And if you've got a 200-year, what do you call it? If you got a 200-year step ahead of the Spaniards, then when the Spanish eventually got here and the Franciscans, they were ready to deal with them. And I'm sure they were like, ¿sabes qué? We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you're like. We know what you do. We're on to you. We've been on to you for 200 years. You're going to do what we tell you to do if you want us to participate in this grand experiment. We may lose a lot of ourselves with sickness and illness. We may get stuck in the middle of battles between the Comanches and the Apaches. But if you're going to come here and alter our reality, you're going to participate we'll participate along with you, but we want 51% of the pie.
I think
And all
it's important to mention too that perhaps when the Spanish got here, most of the missions where they lie today were not initially there. So the Spanish decided this is where we're going to build it. And then, in my belief, right, the natives were like, that's not working out so great. Let's move them over here because this is a better place for them.
Well, and some of that was done because of floods. You know, so when you're a new guy in town, you're going to say, "Ooh, this looks like great property."
And then the natives were
river,
coming.
whatever, and you put it here. And then the first flood comes, and natives are saying, "See, this is why you should put it over here." And so they move it because, like for Valero and for Mission San Jose, the location that they're in today, that's their third and final location. The other
Two is in a different place.
Well,
And there were the ones in the East Texas that got moved.
Yeah.
Right, the other three, once they were moved from other places here, that is their place, because where Concepcion is at now, used to be one of the locations that San Jose was at. But at San Jose, if you'll remember, the river was diverted. Where the river is at now was not where it was originally. And that, for those of you who ever had the opportunity to go on a hike with an archaeologist with Susan Snow, and you went from San Jose all the way out to San Juan, she went over all of that. But
Yeah.
how the river was diverted, it's not today where it was originally.
So, I mean, to answer your question, I'd like for you all to look at the evidence, do your own homework, you know, and think about it yourself. I personally don't let anyone tell me anything. You probably figured that out by now. I don't take anybody's advice, opinion, or rhetoric to gospel. I do my homework. I go digging hard for what is and what isn't, because I don't want to be duped. Right? You want to know the truth, don't you?
Yes,
You know, we need.
I have a question for you though.
Yes.
Because you indicated this is happening every 280 years, all the way back to 763. Are there any documented records that allude to that?
No. The White Shaman mural is that documentation. The rock art is that documentation.
I was gonna say, when you did your 1260 years back, you're getting to about that period, right?
Yeah.
The creation.
We're getting closer and closer to the creation of the White Shaman mural when you go back that far.
What do we usually say, about 2,000 to
2,000
2,500?
plus o menos,
My
right?
point was science. Does science have any recorded records of those eclipses occurring every 280 years?
No, well, yes and no. NASA has a 5,000-year catalog, okay, of the eclipses 2,000 years ago and the eclipses 3,000 years from now. They have that.
That's what I was looking for.
Right. And I can't go back far enough. I can just go back far enough to the beginning of when they started, you know, calculating these things, and I see a similar pattern, but not the whole 630 years. I don't see it. I go back as far on their catalog to in the future, and I don't see it. So NASA has some explaining to do.
And
They're not done.
some of the questions, I always find
Yeah.
very important, because I have an analytical mind who doesn't always know everything, but I want to know everything. So, and I'm okay if you correct me, because I'm always in search for the truth. So just because you tell me it's the truth doesn't mean I'm going to take it at face value. I'm going to go back and do my own research.
Right.
But thank you very much for that research. And I think that that's what we need to all do. Not allow somebody else to tell you this is what the truth is, and you take it and you just say, pues así es.
That's dangerous.
Take it and go back and do your own homework. And don't be afraid to search in different places. There's so many voices today that are telling us a million different things that we should be believing, but we are the only ones that are responsible for ensuring that what we have really is the truth. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the White Shaman mural. Does that depict both the skies and the earth?
Yes.
And that includes, I'm particularly interested in the blue hole there at the Cardinal Word.
Yeah.
Is that
It's in the painting.
it's in the painting?
Yeah. And I can't say specifically. It's also a star in the sky. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to mention that when you talk about looking at other places, the Maya codices that have managed to exist up until current time have been studied, and they were on top of this astronomy. They were absolutely on top of this astronomy. So there are other places. They're not the only place, but
those are
they are
vital
fairly
records.
local compared to looking in Europe or some other place.
That-
And the mines are a lot older than NASA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
somebody had a question back here? Okay. Yes.
Are you gonna show it to them, or not? We wanted to look?
Did you want to?
It was more of a statement.
Yeah.
I had gotten invited by Gary and Matilda to go to a location where the NASA scientists were. And it was amazing to be in that room with all these NASA scientists who were they were studying the river at Breckenridge. And then to have them come forward and sponsor more studies there was amazing. So if NASA is paying this much attention, they don't pay attention to everybody. All of us can have scientific discoveries, and for them to pay attention, there's something here.
That is.
We all need to do more.
Thank you very much for mentioning that, because it gives me permission.
Page 35.
To hang on, let me look at this real quick. Okay, this is out of the magazine. Perez began working with Daniela Scalise, the Education Communications Lead for NASA's Astrobiology Department, to create educational materials for school children about Texas landforms that are part of the indigenous origin stories. The project, I have to say, this project is no longer affiliated with NASA. Why? Anybody tell me why?
The cuts.
DEI. But all the tribes that NASA was working with before they were shut down, they all got their funding.
Thank you. That's right.
They managed to get it out there before they shut that door. And so let me continue on. Let me just do this.
This is on the Texas Monthly for anybody who's interested in this article, really great article about the work that Gary is doing.
Yeah. So but Daniela continues to talk about the project like it's still going on, and it's still going on. It's in our hands now. Dr. Saldaña over here, Liliana Saldaña is going to help us out. My sister Jen's going to help us out. We're going to create this curriculum for children, preschool, everything, and specifically for the descendants of the Mission Indians descendants too, for them. We're going to try, I don't know how long it's going to take, Jen, maybe you can shine a light on how quickly some of this could get into the Harlandale School District, or, we don't know. Is that a hard one?
Well, what I'll say is this, you mentioned Dr. Saldaña, and so Dr. Saldaña doesn't know everything yet about my planning, but she has some funding that I'll be applying to in the spring. See? The Urban Bird Project. Yes, through the Urban Bird Project. And I'm going to align that funding with this project to hopefully start cycling out the first phase of the curriculum.
Woohoo! So
It's about time that the ancestors' knowledge get acknowledged.
Amen.
Just because they didn't write in books doesn't mean that they didn't discover these things and that they didn't know all of these things.
Period.
yeah,
We're being hush-hush.
yeah.
Yes, we can't let people say, oh, well, is it written in a scientific journal? Then it didn't exist and it didn't happen. That we have to all fight that.
Yeah, there's
because
a rock
that's
art everywhere that
that's
you
right.
look all over the United States.
Those are our books.
I will also say that the Texas State Board of Education recently knocked down the efforts to be able to continue to do this. That does not mean that it is a done deal.
Right.
I tell people all the time, your voice can make a difference. If we all rely on somebody else to do it, nothing will ever get done. Our history is important. It's important for us to be able to disseminate it not just to the descendants, but to the state of Texas and anywhere else. So it's really important, if you disagree with the decisions that are being made, we all have elected officials to reach out to. It is so easy to reach out to them. You can do it online on their web pages. You can call them, make a phone call. You're going to talk to some random person, but they are required to take down that information and pass that on to your representative. But please, don't whine and gripe and complain here amongst yourself and then go out and do nothing. Please, because we can accomplish so much if we each do our own part.
Yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, like he says, part of that homework is to make your own observations. You know, your own observations means, this dance of Venus. If anybody makes those observations, Venus is in the evening, and in the morning. Start with that. Do your count. You know, right now we still see Venus in the morning. In a few months, you're not going to see it in the morning. Where does it go? So again, that's part of your own observation. That's how I began. That's how I was able to understand Gary's work, because I was out there physically just about every night making those observations, because that's what our ancestors did, is make those observations. Woke up with, you know, they would wake up with that sunrise, they would sleep with that sunset, you know, same thing with that moonrise, same thing with that moonset, you know, Venus, you know, these are the ancestors. And this is the way you're going to take into consideration the work that was embedded in these missions, and we can understand and get back in those ways.
Let me thank you for, that's a nice little segue. By the way, we're in the middle of that 2-year dance right now. It happens every 8 years without failure since the missions were built. So this is last year across, I don't remember, it's August, and it came up this, it just crossed here. I'm going to show it to you right here. It just crossed right here, up it, and then it's about to go down close to the sun again, right there, right here. So this rope on this building is in time with what we're living within the city of Santa, or the state of Texas anyway. Okay? Every 8 years, you can track Venus along this rope. And it's exactly where the rope says it's going to be. And it crosses the ecliptic exactly where the rope says it's going to cross it. That's live, man. Yes, sir.
Is there an art history representation of what the cord is supposed to represent in relationship to the Franciscan friars, and also the significance of the knots along it? I'm curious.
Oh.
It's their belt, and the knots are, there's 5 knots to depict the 5 wounds of Christ, and they're shown in the symbol that Gary showed as the sun. Venus moved behind the sun.
Yeah.
So,
Why could I totally what he just said, but some of the things that, yes, that's a great question. The knots are there, just like he said, and they have meaning, indigenous meaning too, but I'm not at liberty to say what it is.
So what he's saying is you'll have dual meanings. You'll have the churches that will come with its own meaning on the symbolism of this particular part there at Mission Concepcion, and then the indigenous have their own meaning behind this. So it's not like one is right and the other one is wrong. Both of those are right.
You're such a diplomat.
Depending on who you're talking to.
I don't like you.
Depending on who you're talking to.
Just following up on that thought, the Catholic Church has a history of building their theology on the base of the history of the people that they represent.
There you are.
So
there you go.
It could well be the two coexist.
And you're absolutely correct. And please forgive me because I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody whatsoever. Ours is not a religious organization, and it is not a political organization, so that's not where I'm coming from. Years ago, I went down to Nicaragua, and while I was there for a couple of weeks, one of the things that a little old, very sweet Catholic nun told me, she said, when we go into new countries to Christianize the people from those areas, she said, we take a lot of their own beliefs and we implement some of our beliefs and marry them together, because this is easier for us to be able to bring in those individuals into the Catholic Church. So sometimes you will see the marrying of different diagrams. Again, it does not mean one is right and the other one's wrong. They are both right. They're just being used in different ways, sure.
Yeah, to marry the two, to do. So this is a real interesting article. I was terrified about how it was going to turn out, because they interviewed all of the major players in the saga of the White Shaman mural, and I think judge for yourself about what the article means to descendants, to you, to science.
Let me hold it up so that they can see which one this is.
Can it be seen?
This is the Texas Monthly. I think it just came out last week or the
Last week before.
So page 35 is where the article starts.
So it's
For
August?
those of you.
September. That's this month's copy. Okay.
That's what I was looking.
Any more questions?
I will
Okay.
say on the article, they did not mention enough of Gary's actual background. They did mention one thing that certainly is in his resume, he was an electrician, but Gary has a lot more to his background, including with the Native American Church, including with peyote gardens, and with ceremony. There's just a lot more to him that it just does not do justice to him.
Thank you.
Can I answer what you're saying?
Yes.
Stand up, dear. Everyone, this is Janet Stock. She's an archaeologist. We, myself and Joe, and a number of others, provided a paper for the
Society for American Archaeology during COVID. Unfortunately, Gary wasn't able to present in person because of COVID. But we provided a professional paper with the information that
on the Four Fountain Springs.
was being found out about the Four Fountain Springs and the geology that is discussed in that article. And so that paper would not have been selected if fellow researchers in archaeology didn't believe that there was a basis for that discussion. So yes, people are thinking there's two different possibilities here. There's probably many more possibilities here, but that doesn't discount the work that we did.
Precisely.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of on the heels of that, because I wrote
We do
this
need to
down.
talk a little bit louder.
You're very
I
soft-spoken.
wanted just to make a statement on the heels of what you just said, because I wrote this down and I really appreciated it. You said, frame it the way that you want. And I thought that was really important, because there are multiple ways to think about it. So I really appreciated that statement.
As long as it's based on science and fact, frame it the way you want it, because that doesn't change the science. Doesn't change it. The foundation of our cultures, all indigenous cultures all over the world are founded on math, science, geography, geology, astronomy. And it's all attached to storytelling and ceremony. And that's, by the way, because I was the keeper of the gardens, peyote gardens, for 12 years and raised in the peyote culture with curanderismo and grandmas and all that other stuff, I had the front row seat to that world. From the time I was a child, cuando me curaban de susto, they would cure me from shock, you know. You're fed peyote, man. In South Texas, along the Rio Grande Valley, that's it. It's a part of your life. My grandparents used to travel to Nuevo Laredo when you couldn't get it out in the wild anymore because of fences and all this other stuff. They would go to the pharmacy in Nuevo Laredo and buy peyote from the pharmacy. They sold it to you. The top shelf, dirt and button and a paper bag, 5 cents. Go. And you could cross the border with it.
By the way, you can't get it that way anymore.
You can't get it that way anymore. Don't even try. We have to go through a permit process, a lengthy permit process to be able to even have it in your possession. It's really hard. Man, thank you guys for coming out. I had a wonderful time. Thank you so much.
Diane's going to give you all some news on the upcoming presentation and upcoming events. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have Gary and Matilda. Matilda's going to be one of our presenters next year. So y'all know we're already planning our presentations for next year. We're halfway through the year already with presenters. If you have anything that you'd like for us to present, any suggestions, presenters, or anything, please bring them to Margot or I, and we will look into it. Our presenter for next month is somebody that Matilde and Gary brought to us. They brought this suggestion and we were like, we gotta have them. So our presenter next month, our presentation next month is on October the 4th with Eric Schroeder. And he's gonna be talking about the paint rocks pictograph. Okay, so come out, listen to him. I think it's gonna be an amazing presentation. We were out there,
December.
I think in January.
Late December. No, first
January.
January.
We were out there in January. Wow.
If you've never had the opportunity to go to Paint Rock, Texas, to see the.
We need to get like a tour group
Please
together.
go. It will be amazing.
It is an amazing.
I will say, though, my observation was when you go for the very first time, don't go for the tour because they're going to be talking while you're trying to absorb and you're not going to be listening to anything that they're saying. Just go
And observe.
capture it all in.
It's
And
very
then go for a
spiritual.
tour, this way you can hear it.
Yeah.
But this way you can get the whole atmosphere, all of the rocks and how they speak to you. It's an amazing
It's a very
experience.
spiritual experience. So come out and see us. We'll be here again October the 4th with Eric Schroeder. Okay, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. This will be my first time hearing him.
There's no way you can change the date, right?
No, we had that set since early this year. I know, and we are, yeah.
Powwow that weekend. And also another.
If Eric Schrader, sorry. Eric Schrader, that paper, the Bulletin for Texas Archaeological Society, the Bulletin for Texas Archaeological Society, Eric Schrader, Joe, and myself wrote that paper. It's online. You can read about his approach to our scientific suggestions, and it's really very fascinating. It's really good. That's the paper that got me into trouble, though, you know.
I will say next year, we are going to be posting our calendar online for the year in January. I don't know that will help any, because people will schedule their stuff whenever they want to. I know the World Heritage has been kind enough to try to work around our schedule, but at least this way people know, what we've already got out there from the beginning.
Yeah, because all our presentations, like here we are, September, we already have most of next year set. So we start doing things early in the year for the following year. So October the 4th with Eric Schrader. November and then the last thing that we're going to have for SAMID will be our 4th annual Cristela Cortez King Fry Bread Social and Holiday Market. That'll be November the 8th at Mission Park Pavilions. We are calling for vendors. If anybody would like to be a vendor, it needs to be something that you make at home. You can't bring something that you buy from somebody else or from a company or whatever to bring to sell. It has to be something that you make at home, right? We value.
First and foremost, if you are a Native American person and you create your own
jewelry or things like that.
And things of that nature and would like to sell here, that's perfect. We would love to have you. But if you are not Native, but you create your own crafts to sell, we want you to.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing we're doing is also we're calling for volunteers for November the 8th. This year we're going to have, it's going to be a very different thing than we've had in the past. So we're going to need more volunteers. We are going to have a Native American fashion show with.
Which, by the way, we do need models, male and
Yes.
female models. We're still
I think we've got all the males we need. I think we still need female models, but it's going to be with the amazing Nan Blasingame. She's going to be our
She's a designer.
she's the designer that's going to come and do the fashion show for us. We're also we're going to have a Native American hip hop artist come out and perform. He's an international artist, so we're going to have him come perform. We're still looking for a few more. We're also going to have informational booths out there, different organizations from San Antonio, but we're going to have the Lipan Apache out there. Wapay is going to be out there, Mescalero. We're going to have the Cherokees. We're still working with the Comanches, hoping to get the Comanches to come out, and possibly the Alabama Coshada also to come out. You know, Margot was saying,
Logo will also be there.
yeah, you know, Margot was saying something that I think it's very important. And, you know, people are always saying, well, there's no stories. Our stories are what's in the history books, right? But the victor writes the story. And so everything that always comes out about Native Americans is negative. And it's time that we start telling our own story. Nobody else should be telling our story but us. And so this is why we're having representatives from different tribes that were here in the state of Texas prior to, during, and after colonization to come and talk about what they were doing here, right? It's important. It is important. That story needs to be told from our perspective, not someone else's. It needs to be told from ours. And so this year we're starting with these small amount of tribes, but we hope that as we move along, we'll be able to include more. But we need help. So if you know anybody who wants to donate funds or donate anything to our Fry Bread Social, send them to us. We're still looking for donations. We're still looking for, yeah, we are still, we're having a silent auction too, because from what I understand, Summit TX is the only one that offers a scholarship for Native American descendants of the missions. Okay, so unfortunately, we didn't have anybody to apply this past year. It was our first year, so we've added it to what's coming for next year. And it will not just be for students who are just barely graduating from high school. It will be for those who are in school but want to continue also.
And so, you know, it's not just for college, it can also be for trade schools.
Yeah, okay, for community college. So we're working to do a lot of different things.
But
We need help. We need help. So please come join us, walk alongside us. We've got these here, each one of these. We do have applications in the back, but if you come and scan, there's a QR code. It'll take you directly to the sign-up sheets and whatnot, the applications. We have paper applications if you want them. And, you know, let's make this year great so that our students next year will have great, a good amount of money. We've had so many organizations that have donated. SeaWorld has donated tickets for us to do the silent auction. Kendra Scott. All these different organizations have given us things that we can put out there. So
we've got our first volunteer who has signed up. Thank you, Taylor Sullivan.
Thank
We
you.
have more applications over there for anybody else. We won't point at you so you don't get embarrassed. But he is in the.
he's right, but he's sitting in this section. No, just kidding.
No, but
But
we do need
your help, yeah.
So please come by and see us.
So thank y'all so much, and we'll see y'all next month.